Probably can, if we could work on that together, I probably can squeeze some money out of siltation if necessary.
We'll get with Shannon and see what he thinks.
Yeah, we need to, that's what we need, to get with Shannon and let him look at it and tell us how much money we're talking about starting with. Because it's another situation, if I'm right on that lot that you guys now have control of, it's another one of those situations where we could build a road in and leave it, not have to have the expense of putting it in and taking it out. Okay, I think.
Yeah, 15. So you guys give us 15. That's the pond.
Yeah, I was thinking there was one down
Well,
there in
there's one that,
I thought there was one of these 317 or 316 or something was one of them too, but evidently not.
I went through and highlighted
Yeah.
everything that you
So I
guys.
was thinking there was one of them here. And what I was thinking, if it was, you could come in this way, and not have to disturb.
I could double check and make sure.
Well, you're probably right. I thought there was one up there, and wouldn't be the first time I've been wrong. Even today.
Thank you, sir. Dwayne, how are you? We good. See what my name is there. Hello, Tom. How you doing, all?
Hey, Tom.
Thank you. It'll be up tomorrow.
Oh, the drone pictures?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
There's a lot of pictures there if you want to look at all of them.
No, I'm not gonna look at any of them. I'm gonna put them up.
I know. I'm just saying that if anybody wants to go in and look at all of them for any reason, they're.
But you said there's a folder for each code.
Yeah.
That's
folder.
like he did before, last time.
No, he didn't put them in folders before. I didn't think he did. But anyway, he's got them in folders. He's got a folder for the spillway. He's got a folder for the north end. He's got a folder for the east fork. He's got folders for all 20 codes.
Good, good. Is there any kind of description that you want to put? You guys just put something like 2018,
Length down 6.5 feet.
okay. I was thinking
Hey Cindy,
it said that
the guy that gives
the water went down.
Well,
You want to stay 6.5 feet or you want to something simple like that?
he said he would be happy.
when the lake is down, to replace the spillway or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, that would be good.
Okay, cool.
But it was,
Or 2018
K&M fence,
fall of 2018.
K&M, yeah, he's done.
yeah,
Okay.
just so I got something to refer back to,
Yep.
when we and you were both gone, somebody looked at it, they'll know what.
Yeah, I just don't want to use
Big
any words
walnut,
that.
what was it we went to see that dog
Well,
park in?
Yeah,
Dog
Yeah,
park,
I
Big
think
Walnut,
2018,
Fort
fall 2018.
Park, and Newcastle.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, look.
Down 6.5 feet.
It doesn't hurt,
Huh?
doesn't hurt.
Hey, how are you?
That's fine, there you.
Dwayne, you want to water?
Yeah, I'll take some.
Hello, Marilyn, how are you?
How are you?
It's good to see you.
Cindy made me come.
Way to go, Cindy.
Somebody says, hi Cindy, good to see you. How are you?
I was getting there. I didn't want to break your concentration signing in.
Ruin your reputation.
Good to see you, Cindy.
You know you'll hear me. Front row. Well, there is nobody else here. Hi, Dwight.
How are you?
Wayne's here. I'm gonna sit over here. Where's the camera? Over there. Oh, I don't have one. See it? Ken's walking sideways.
It's not even Saturday.
Never let me go home
Hey,
and come
Fred.
back to work.
That's right, Mike, Fred.
Go away, big decision.
Okay.
I brought this, I don't have any notes in it. Yeah, I know. You're the keeper of the notes.
Print out a bunch of these. Do you think everybody wants one of these? This is the quotes from.
Oh, that was AJ's? Yeah, I'd like to see that. Just give me some. I'll pass them down.
You study.
Okay.
Is this the practice meeting? It's a practice meeting, yeah. You wound up
Give him a
tonight.
couple of minutes, and, he goes wild on you.
Yeah. Wound up. Do people really come? No, it's Dwayne. Dwayne does. You always come to this meeting too?
AJ's not gonna be here either.
You always come to
He's
this
still
meeting
out of
too?
town. Forbes is still out of town, right?
99% of the time.
Shannon appreciates that. Like it.
So you pretty soon get coming,
Yeah.
gets me out of the house.
Yeah. I started coming to Rick Quick on this. How are you, Bill? Good. You know, you don't need it. You want yours, you're fine. You should have. Look. You should have another one in that for something. You show them. No, only taking up 4 seats here. Hey.
Yeah.
Okay, I think.
So that's gonna be their opportunity. That's a good idea. Because I haven't.
Is that yours or mine? That's yours.
Lincoln Park.
Good
See
point.
how they're doing on driving the poles. Ran into a road this year.
Hey, you got your sign already.
We anticipated driving them 5 feet in the ground.
It's right
Concerned
here.
whether we
I've
get
never been
shelled.
called secretary before.
You didn't hit shale.
Called a lot of other stuff, all right?
Which was making the poles, even at 5 feet, was making it too sloppy.
Then you got
We
to,
had the same problem.
in the season.
Pardon?
They
You
drove
gotta
the
take all the
pipe
time.
a little further down and stiffened it up.
Oh, you're secretary?
It's Probably in the ground,
I
probably,
can't read my own writing. I know Deborah's not gonna be able to.
which stiffened them up.
I did
But
do
we're gonna
shorthand in
have to
high school, but that was
set
that
up the
didn't
pipe.
have to do with the machine.
Some of them are sticking up out of the water this high.
But I
So we're
wouldn't
gonna
know
have to
for- I
set, we're
wouldn't
gonna
know
set
like
pipe
2 years of
inside
Spanish.
that
How do you type?
to make the PVC.
Great.
I think I'm in the bar and I'm back there.
Great.
No, I can do about 25 hours, 40 or 6. I can make it out.
Well,
People want to talk about.
and you,
what I, you know, do the 5
Let it
days
sit
at
on
home.
your ground.
Take the documents and go back and take 5 work at home, maybe it was more than
Maybe I'm not able to all gonna be the same, they're all 2 feet.
So you'll notice that the board.
All 10 feet, don't need to drive.
Wayne, how's Janet?
We're,
Probably good, I'm hearing she's old.
You got everything taken care of at home?
That's the first annual meeting she ever missed. And I told her, I think you ought to go to one, but she don't like to go to any meeting where there's any confrontation, like we had.
How you doing, Arnie?
So she wouldn't have a couple of board meetings. So I told her not to come to one, so when we got instructed to leave, I said, well, you're off duty now, you've been to one of them. She said, well, it wasn't too bad.
She knows sits back there, that's what we always sit back there, you know, leave, we leave. And now the rest of the time, I can come to meetings.
I didn't come very often, I'm sure. He didn't really want me to. He said,
You probably come more since I'm even taking the turn.
and he goes, huh. I got contingency going. I was like, yeah, I think he kind of, he was he lost for a minute. Okay.
You gotta go? Go do what you gotta do, come back and
I think they did. Do you have that?
I had been working, it's all.
You can still read it.
It's a good text.
I get my glasses.
Oh, hi there, hello. You just have your gun.
Oh, come up here.
I like to sit in the back with the troublemakers.
Yeah, I'm not.
I better be back with you. Troublemaker. Yeah.
Are you coming tonight?
Chris. I know.
That's why I didn't come with Charlie this one.
Bonfire's 3 o'clock.
Yeah. Just in my real house. Well, not real, because that was real, it's in the place to take.
Oh, really?
Because I have to rack in.
That's what he
Where I
said.
got them, which is up there close to my field.
But then there's accepted some properties,
You see this
like
form you made?
Which is,
where you go from
Jeff made that.
Mill Springs into Lincoln Hills, there's accepted parcel
I think
on the
the
right
3
side
on
of
it,
Hill's
that's just purely all we have. It's up to 3. It is, if he writes good, sometimes I. For traceability, then like I said, I mean, once meeting's over, I would do it go home that night or the next morning.
Got sections
Everything
this
else
week.
is still kind of fresh.
Asking them.
That's a big subsidy.
Private sector. What
There's
happened to the nightclub?
accepted
Son.
parcels in there.
He's telling me all this, and then he says, oh, you know, I'm this is JB. You know, I'm not playing. I know, you just.
I think it's the second.
that a girl.
I was just zoning out, there really wasn't being serious.
The meeting hasn't started, don't zone out yet. I'm looking to that screen too, I've been looking at the color red, and everybody look at the. Yeah. Play funny on the eyeballs. Yeah.
Can't take it home. Oh, you brought me. Really?
You have that, so is he coming, or is he in Columbus or wherever?
I'm gonna guess he really is, because I heard him say that he had a apartment or something.
Saturday is the 6th.
All right, a little bit after 7, please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
They switched the flag, I'm sorry.
It's over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll switch it back next week.
Thank you for coming, everybody. Today is the first POA operations meeting of February 25th, 2019. I know it doesn't look like it, but the new board has been seated and officers have been identified. Treasurer is going to be Jim Johnson, as previously. Secretary is going to be Jeff Brooks. Vice President is Tom Novak, and I'm going to be president this term. As far as committee liaisons, A&E will be William Goupel. Campground is Ken Riggin. Cleanup is myself. Election is Jim Johnson. Government, Tom Novak. Lake is Jeff Brooks. Long-term planning, AJ Stafford. Helnack is Grant Feldhake. And Siltation is Paul Forbes. So those are your board members. We've got a couple absences for guys being out of town today. And Jeff Brooks just got a call to respond to a fire emergency, so he had to up and leave right after he sat down. So we'll get through today's meeting. As a reminder, the operations meetings established the agenda for the next board meetings. So we have 3 items on today's agenda to discuss. First one being gate access quotes for the burn area. This is something that's been discussed at several meetings over the last few months. The last one, we had some really good numbers from K&N Fence that we looked at. We also received from AJ Stafford a quote from Fast Access Security Corporation. Quotes look to be around the mid $3,000 range with various options. K&M Fence was about mid $3,000 range as well. And what I'd like to do is put this on the January board meeting as new business A. So we can agree to a cost that we want to not exceed, as well as the quote that we would like to go with that contain the features that we request. So I would ask the board to get familiar with the quotes that we have in front of us. We'll have it open for discussion at the March board meeting, and then we can make a decision, get this moving so we can get that burn pile secured before the spring cleanup season hits. Yes, Tom?
I looked it over once or twice, and I was wondering, is there any quote for a camera? I think Ken was somewhat, said that was a necessity to have a camera. And I was wondering if there was a quote anywhere in here.
I don't know that any of these quotes included a camera. I know K&M, we had a discussion with them, and they were talking, obviously the cameras would be not a pretty straightforward thing to do. We can get cameras from anybody though, not necessarily these guys. Jeff Brooks also had some ideas around that as well.
Keep in mind, and I'm not a camera expert, but basically what we're discussing is to have a camera out there that would be able to send its video information back to a server at the clubhouse. That's going to be a little tricky, I think, but
Yeah.
I think a couple things. There are 3 different estimates in here. One from Fast Access, and I think the second one is DF Supply.
Yes.
And then on the very back one is also K&M. But something tells me that that AJ was going to check into a camera, if I remember right.
He had a lot of input on that.
Yeah, the one quote, I made a note here, the one from DF Supplies is equipment with electronic eye. But none of them has with camera. So I think AJ was going to be checking into.
Yeah, he was, you're right, King, because he was gonna come back on that because we want to be able to capture, when they leave, or when they come in, capture that plate number and so forth on the vehicle.
I guess, I guess I could volunteer. Is this a correct statement indicating that there is no closer area in which we could house a server? I mean, visually, I think AJ might have been thinking about that shack at the bottom of the cell tower. Well, we don't own that shack.
Correct.
And I guess I could certainly clarify with him, isn't that what most of us would think? That if there was a camera out at the burn area, that it would have to be able to send its video signal back to a server for monitoring, and I assume that server would be located at the clubhouse, unless somebody else could tell me where else a server closer,
The fire
like
department.
at the marina.
Marina Fire
Yeah.
Department.
But again, at the marina, we're talking about that server probably could store the image, but there wouldn't be anybody there that would be actively monitoring it. Would you think it would need to be actively monitored or just stored?
I really don't know why stored it wouldn't be just as effective.
That's what I was thinking, because if we seen something, then we could always go back and
Right.
review. I would say stored.
So then store, so it would be a possibility for us to, I guess we would have to purchase a server and store that server at the marina. I don't know if it would be feasible to store it at the fire station. My way of thinking, it would be, the answer would be no, because we wouldn't necessarily have access to the fire station.
I do.
You do.
Mhm.
Well, would you think that would be
Jeff does also.
an option then?
I
I'm talking
would think-
about location-wise, as the eagle flies or the crow flies, I don't know how far it is from that burn pile to the clubhouse.
I think the signal strength will be a whole lot better the closer the server is to that camera, for sure.
There's no question,
Yep.
no question.
So, yeah, I kind of agree with Ken as far as if it's at the firehouse, and if it's just for going back, I mean, we go to the burn pile, and all of a sudden we see a bunch of stuff there that shouldn't be there. You can easily go back to those images and find out.
We already have
when
that
it
upper
happened.
camera that's to their server now, or their system.
But we really don't know the resolution of that camera yet.
Not yet.
Well, it's just something, that if, I guess, would you want to contact, or would you like me to contact AJ and just clarify in his mind that a server would need to be part of the deal, and it would be either located at the fire station or the marina or the clubhouse? Is that sort of correct?
Yeah, just looking back through the, Jeff, did you find out any pricing on cameras?
No, AJ was doing the camera, although he did say, let's see, I printed the email.
The only reason I asked was in the minutes it says provided by additional pricing by AJ or / Jeff.
All he did tell me is, in his email, unfortunately, the alarm was going off, so no fire. That cameras can be incorporated with because DNF submitted 2 quotes, and one was a little bit higher, but that was with what they call the Mevo 16 secure reader, and you can add additional gate openers with that system, so you do other gate openers around. Chris talked about the marina, but he did tell me that will incorporate, you can add cameras to that. It will work right with that system. And they also have everything full wireless, he said probably by summer to the end of the year, and it would just be about ready.
No, what we were discussing, Jeff, before you entered the room, is the fact that this camera would need to be able to send its video signal to a server either located at the firehouse, at the marina, or the clubhouse. At one of those 3 locations, a server would have to be located in order to capture the video signal sent through the air, I presume, by this camera.
Is there a reason that server could not be over at the cell tower?
We don't have any facility there to store it.
I don't know if we just, even just draw power from there, or just have a wireless, because we talked about cameras over there.
We don't own that cell tower.
I understand that.
Okay, we lease that out, so we would have to get permission from whoever has that cell tower.
Sure.
First thing, if I was the people, that first thing they're gonna do is reduce their rent.
Oh, sure.
So it
Well,
sounds
it's
like we
something,
gotta-
I'll follow up then, if it's okay.
If you can,
I will
Tom.
contact AJ and identify to AJ that the camera that he needs to think about is one that would be able to deliver its video signal to a server located at one of those 3 locations.
For $700, we can get power to the
Yeah,
gate.
and if you're gonna run power to the gate, throw your Ethernet cables or whatever kind of cables you need to run you could run everything out of the fire department. You could pull your power from the fire department, have a dedicated power source from there, and also a video feed. And there's your server, and then it's right there and everybody can tie into it.
You're gonna dredge a line from the burn pile gate to the firehouse area.
I think it'd probably be no further than the phone pole, or the transformer at the corner of the lot, would it?
Probably not.
Probably not as far. And no, I'm not gonna dig it.
No, I'm saying, the thought would be, well, then, I'll just mention to AJ that if it's possible, that the video signal could be sent. See, keep in mind, you're talking, I wanna say 300, it's either 300 feet or 300 meters, and I know there's a difference, that RJ 45 has a limit.
Mhm.
And I would think it's at least 300 feet from the gate to the fire station. But that's just mine.
Yeah, I think the quote that we originally got for running the power was from the existing power pole. The corner of the lot, not the fire
Yeah, I'm just
station. So it's gonna
introducing
change
it.
a little bit. Yeah.
I'm just introducing the fact that Jeff suggested that the video signal could be sent over a RJ 45 type cable. And I'm just saying, Cat 5 cable, and that's only good for, I want to say, let's see, I think it's only good for 300 feet, but I won't hold everybody up. I'll find the answer.
So I guess at the end of the day, we need to get confirmation of the price
100 meters,
and requirements for a camera,
328 feet.
in addition to the existing numbers that we're looking at for the gate itself, right?
Is that something you would want immediately, Ken, or, is there the possibility, see what a gate does, and then possibly in the future, put in a camera, or immediately, you think that the camera is necessary immediately?
I think a camera would be really nice. I think once people figure that they're not being monitored, they're just gonna pull up there and let the gate open up, and they're gonna go on back there anyway.
So that's a must.
The comment the gentleman gave to me, his name's Joshua Dayton from DNF, on the first quote he sent. His comment was, the control board has an output so you can interface it with both the Nova system as well as any camera system that utilize a dry contact, which is nearly everything on the US market. So that one system there can utilize a camera. So that's one reason we originally talked about that one. There was a quote here from Fast Access, which was not as robust an opener, but it was not upgradable. I know that was something the board had talked about to be pretty important. So that's why I just got another quote. Never hurts to have more than one. And this guy, he did some comparisons and said, hey, you know, this is what we're offering. Didn't know where it was gonna come in price-wise. Price wasn't, actually it was $1 less, or so, a ballpark of that.
Yeah.
About, close to the same. They were fairly close to each other. But that one is upgradable. You can add other systems around the community, and you can also add cameras to it.
You know, I'm ignorant on that, I don't know what it means. The system could add another camera. What does that mean? Does that mean that the system has the ability to store the video that the camera would be generating?
It has outputs so you can interface a camera with it.
What stores the video?
I ain't a camera guy. Couldn't tell you that one, Tom. I know the camera's gonna get the video, the output's gonna come out of the box. So it's gonna have to be able to get that video back to a server, and that's an assumption on my part. That's a simple question I can ask Joshua.
If someone could just follow up on that, you know, I think we just need all our quote-unquote ducks in a row, you know, that we know that, okay, a camera is a must, the electronic gate, camera's gonna be taking signals, how does the video get stored? You know, for what period of time? Because Ken has to agree that, you know, if it's stored for a week, it's probably not good enough. But I think that's what we need. How does the video get stored? And I'll follow up with AJ.
If you could follow up with AJ, we need answers obviously to these other questions too. We'll be prepared to make a motion at the next board meeting. I think overall, by the numbers that we're looking at, I mean, we're talking probably around $5,000 all in, and I think that's very reasonable for the benefit that we could get just by being able to better manage that area.
Can I just ask a follow-up question for Jeff? We had talked about that it wouldn't, initially we had talked about that maybe we wouldn't need cards, that some type of photo eye or magnetic sensing device could be used to open the gate. With those coils, those magnetic sensing coils that are buried, could they be buried in earth?
Sure. They just have some kind of pad to push on it.
I think that was included in it.
But there was one quote that was actually, the quote mark 6/15/41/19. That was a quote, because you'd asked me to find out what it would cost to have an electric eye system. And that's what the quote for 2952 is. That's an electric eye system. That's including the electric eyes, the 24 loop coils with the 100-foot leads. So I actually do the electric eye system because the additional electronics ends up being more than a card reader. Now, the card reader price that he gave me as far as the cards was $2 and some change. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah.
And he did say that if we did, because he said, how many cards would you ultimately need? And I said, 3,000. It might be 3,000 cards. And he said, you're going to be around $1.50, $1.75 a card. And
But that magnetic wire, that can be buried in earth.
it has to have a pad over it.
A concrete pad?
Not necessarily a concrete pad. It has some kind of activation. You just put dirt over the dirt, it's going to squash down.
Okay.
It has to have a pad on top of it. And that's one of the things he actually put in here.
For the pad?
Was for the...
That's on the 119 bid, right?
Yeah, it's on 119 bid, yes, sir.
Because we wouldn't need that if we had card readers.
No, you don't need there's two quotes there. Jim, one for...
I got it, that's good. Thank you.
Well, you would need something, because if the card gets you in, I would assume the gate closes once you move over its boundary. Is that correct?
Right, the gate, there's nothing in the ground that you drive. If you use a card, you swipe it, you set the timer anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 minutes. The gate's gonna close behind you.
And then when you're coming out, what opens the gate?
It should, if you look, I think it's got two pedestals. You have a pedestal on the inside, so you read it on the inside as well.
Okay.
The cards actually are a lot cheaper than the Corson quote. The Corson quote, I think, was like $4 a card.
Yeah, the fast access quote, they were over $5 a card.
Yeah, there was two
Yeah.
pedestals.
Yep.
$128 a piece.
Okay, so is everybody comfortable with getting this on the next board meeting agenda? Be able to move forward pending the answer to the questions that were raised during this discussion?
I'm good.
All right,
So is this
new business A? Thanks, guys. Next on the agenda, Bark Park discussion with Cindy Huddleston
And Marilyn Beer.
and Marilyn Beard.
I don't have any notes.
Cindy, do you have notes?
She doesn't.
I just made the connection, Ken.
Well, Ken, Marilyn, and myself, and Jody DeFord went to the Eagle Creek Park. We met with a lady named Shiloh, and she's been there 5 years. And so she gave us, I've got some notes. Ken, correct me if I
Let me get my notes out.
make any notes down. Okay.
I didn't take them.
You're doing fine.
I'm just looking out at the window.
She said
So
they
how
have,
about give us some background first about where this idea came from and who's been involved, what kind of work you've done, and then we can get into the specifics about the research you've done.
I guess Jody DeFord and myself got involved when they started talking about the 5K walk. But I guess prior to that, Ken, correct me, there were a couple of ladies that had contacted the POA here about having a dog park. Well, Jody and I didn't know that they had contacted them, and Jody and I kind of go full blast, and we got a dog walk at the,
In September, they were doing, yeah.
so we raised $900, I think is what is in Hillmax earmarked for the dog park. So we've got that for a start. And then we just got talking a little bit more about it. Actually, Charlie's the one that kind of started this. He
No,
had.
he did, we don't even have a dog.
I think it originated, there was a lot of discussion on Facebook about people not having a place to
Right.
walk their dogs, let their dogs go into the water. I think it's what it kind of all originated from. We had met, had a meeting, I believe, to kind of put our plan together.
Mhm.
And then after Charlie's passing, it just kind of got dropped. We all met with a lady at the park, and we just went with a lot of questions that you guys had asked, some of our own questions, sat down with the lady. Got a lot of those questions answered. I think what I did when I came back, I took a map and identified every lot that was given to us from Clear Creek. And I took another map and I identified the lots that, no, I take that back, on the same map, I identified and highlighted in a different color the lots that the Heritage Lake owns. Then on a separate map, I identified 3 or 4 locations. We haven't even met with that on. Identified about 4 locations that could possibly be presented to the board. With those locations, I identified what residence was close to these locations, just to kind of eliminate any problem, concern from them. So from that point, that's where we had left it, by really we need to compile the answers that we got to a lot of you guys' questions that the board, our goal was to eliminate or get answers to a lot of your questions before we come to you, and then got bombarded with a bunch of questions we didn't have answers to. So we've got them together. We need to put that information together for you guys to review. I think we need to agree as the group what locations we want to present to the board as an option. And then I think we need, for each one of those locations, we need to put together a cost, what it's going to cost us for fencing. It's not gonna be that difficult, we just basically need to figure out the fencing per foot and then decide how big of a area we can, so.
I've got one price there.
So that's kind of where, to date, where I know we're at, unless you have anything else.
Yeah.
I think this meeting is just kind of update you guys where we're at with that. And then when we get together, you know, we'll come back to the board with some ideas and for discussion.
When I talked to Cindy, that's what I requested, because I knew that there was a lot of that being done, kind of in the background. I know there was people actively doing research and, but nothing to this point had been formally documented or discussed with the board. So I just wanted everybody to have visibility that this is something that's kind of on the horizon. You guys are still getting all your answers and kind of strategizing about options and prices and rules and restrictions and all the things that you gotta consider when you're talking about something like this. So we're not looking for any actions or approvals necessarily, but just for visibility at this point, just so everybody on the board is aware that this work is being done. Yeah.
Well, from remembering when Charlie and they were doing, or Chuck, known at Eagle Creek, he come home and said, I want a damn bark park. I don't know what a bark park is. This dumb thing. It brought in revenue. They were in an isolated area. And that's the only thing, it has to not be around, because dogs are gonna bark.
Yep.
Whether they're happy or mad.
Right, and that's obviously a consideration when you're talking about picking a location. It's gotta be strategically placed where, I mean, there's homes all around, and then you got little patches of woods and stuff, and then you got the people that just want the woods to be woods, and they don't want anything else around it, and so it's gonna be probably a tricky job to pick that out, and, you know, it's just, and based on the size and, I mean, other logistical requirements.
Well, the dog park in Greencastle, I just went over there today, and it was, like 17 posts of 12-foot fence, and there was 3 of those, and then they had it divided in half. Now, Shyla said she wouldn't do 2 different sides, just one side. So, just pricing some fences. Jeff even said we could get some quotes from where you guys are going from. So I just got a quote, and it was pretty high without the labor and stuff like that, 15,000.
One thing that, you know, this is all something we could talk about internally, but talking to Sheriff Stockton, we just chatting about this, he did offer the labor from some of the trustees to put up the fence if that would save us some money.
Right. But I'll get with Jeff and.
Probably one of the other things, and when we identify the location, to keep in mind whether it's something that we want, like on Heritage Drive, that's kind of easy access, or do we, one of the places identified is kind of off the beaten path, not many houses around, we've got like 2, 4, 6 lots together. So, you know, that's kind of some of the, there's one house across the very end lot. But other than that, you know, that's some of the things we probably need to board needs to take in consideration when we decide where to locate it at.
I also assume you're having discussions about liability and waivers and fees and all that kind of stuff too.
There's a lot of the, lot of these answers, yeah. To my surprise, in all the years they've had one, it was really surprising they've never ever been sued.
And she says that everybody tells on everybody else's dog. You know, if this dog.
Which is just lovely for me.
There were 2 or 3 people reminding you to go clean that up.
Right. and I think she said there was one incident, within 5 years,
But they have 500 members
500
was one of the notes that I took.
right?
Will there need to be some type of parking space?
Yeah, that's the reason why it identifies some of the locations, like that one I just spoke about. I mean, for 6 lots, the way it's kind of identified is, without looking at it, it's 5 lots in a row, and right next to it is, there's 2 roads on each side. So you got 5 lots here, and you got 1 lot that connects the end of it, which is a road over here. So you could actually pull in here apart. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's over in the Gettysburg area. That's kind of off
By
by
my
itself. No,
That's all right, I'm getting a dog.
Careful what you ask for.
About
I'm
what
gonna get
exit?
me a dog.
it's kind of in this area right here, you get to it from exit 54,
Okay.
if that was the
What
parking.
are some of the lot
It's
numbers?
actually going towards Canaan Church.
Some of the lot numbers?
Yes,
The lot numbers,
I think.
test my eyeballs. Gettysburg 570 would probably be the parking lot, and then it goes 569, 68, 67, 66, and 65.
How about a water source? Do you need like well water or,
You know,
some
she
kind of running water?
suggested,
They do not have water. They say some people bring their own water.
They bring their own water.
As far as cleaning purposes though too, I'm thinking like if you gotta hose stuff down or it's just not something that they
They're
do.
supposed to clean up, you get little doggy bags, and
Yeah, like a post with,
then you get a place for them to dispose it.
Sounded like to me about the only maintenance they really did was mow the grass. Make sure they're in, any places that dogs can get out, that kind of thing.
And they have 2 separate places, because one gets wore down because they have so many coming. They can shut that down and then they wear down the other side.
What about like physical structures, like benches and things for dogs to jump on and climb and anything like
They
that?
definitely had those. They had, I forget what word she called them. but-
agility course.
Yeah, that, they definitely had that in benches inside. There's some options to where, we looked at where we wouldn't have to, even like at the, Lincoln Hill, Park area, it's got two shelters down there. Maybe one of the options is to utilize that shelter as a place to get out of the sun, and possibly even making that a dog-friendly beach. You ought to see the beach now. That's just a very, very poor beach because it catches everything. The wind blows that direction, and it looks like Saigon right now. There's big old trees on it, and it's forever labor intense getting that stuff clean. But that's just some of the options that I think we could pull out. There's one over in Jefferson Valley. It's kind of butts. There's several lots together that butts up to the nature park. Do you make it's got a creek. Do you fence those off and make an access to the woods? That they can walk the woods with their dogs, drink out of the creek.
Do you guys have, any ballpark cost estimate or budget that you're trying to stay within, or you're just doing so much research, just getting numbers?
Yeah.
for
I
utilities
think we're just
individually?
gonna, at this point, just compiling, I told the ladies that's working with me on it that I've got a lot on my plate now with all these projects that I really need that kind of help, so, that's just some of the homework that I've done at this point. We really need to get together and compile these answers for
And so are you two taking the lead on this project then, Marilyn and Cindy?
Yes, she
It's
is.
gonna be your driving buddy?
I would like a copy of that. We drove around, I took pictures of some of the places, and we did drive around to a few places which have strong possibilities. But then also, if you just use a wooded lot, you're gonna have to have a parking lot, and that's another cost too.
There was another lady that, I apologize if I forget her name. She came to our very first meeting when Charlie put this one together. I can't think of her name. Oh, it wasn't her.
There's a,
That's it, Patty Boss. She was very much willing to help out, and I remember asking if you guys had,
No, I've already spoken
if
with
you
her.
guys had reached out to her again.
I have, yeah, I've
Okay.
spoke with her. She's in Florida, warm weather,
Okay.
but I've been communicating with her back and
Okay.
forth. And she said as soon as she gets back here,
She seemed like a
Yeah.
person that would be very beneficial to help out with this.
Yep.
Did you just have Dwayne?
The one in Greencastle, and I walk by there a lot and see people with their dogs in there, and I think it's, the reason it's divided in half is one half of it is no leash, and the other half is if you want to exercise your dog and keep them on a leash. And then they also have a leashing area, I guess, a little fence on the inside where
Yeah,
you can bring your dog in there and put them on the leash before you go out.
Acclimation area, kind of a buffer between.
Yeah, buffer, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
and that is a good idea,
yeah.
because it acclimates the dog,
Yep,
especially if
that's
you've got a
good.
little hyper one.
So this is basically just an informative where we're at, so in case any of the members reaches out and says, whatever happened to this,
Yeah.
this is where we're at.
So Cindy, you'll, I assume just maintain being our point of contact, between your project and the board here, and just come back whenever you feel like you're in a position where you have something to present, a couple different options,
Okay.
whatever, just to keep us posted. We're not gonna put anything on the board agenda at this point until we have something to actually, consider or approve, but right now, continue doing your research and come back when you guys are ready to
Okay.
ask for.
We probably should gather everybody together and have a, kind of a gather session,
Right.
you know, so.
Get it going again
Yeah.
after everybody arrives from hibernation season and all that, and they're ready to hit the ground
Yeah.
running again, so.
Yeah.
Just keep us posted, and if you have any questions, come back to us and. we'll
If
figure
I
out-
get, I'll get Ken and get a copy of that map or something, so we can drive around America, and Marilyn can pick out where she wants the dog park.
I don't,
My backyard's fine.
I
My neighbors might-
probably, you know, I don't know that we can make a copy of the map this big, so you probably just take this and go, you know, utilize it. I mean, it's a pretty good sized map, I don't, we can't copy it.
Okay. I know I took some pictures of it, but that didn't work out real well.
Okay.
Anybody else on the board have any other discussion on this?
I was just wondering, and maybe it's too soon to think about it, but, you know, for example, our website or the new website that Jim is working with, to possibly just send out a question, you know, your thoughts on a dog park, just to get a feel for maybe how many people would be using it. You know, I know $15,000 is probably a high number for a fence, but it's still probably, all said and done, might be in that area when everything is purchased.
I think that questionnaire was sent out on Facebook, and I think that's somewhat how it got rolling. I think somebody asked, I'm not sure who it was, but somebody asked the question what they thought about having a bark park.
Is this on Chatter or on Censored or whatever it's
Actually,
called?
they had their
I'm not sure.
own
I
thread,
thought they
or
had their own page.
whatever you
didn't
call
they?
that page. Yeah, they had their own page, but I haven't seen that page come up.
Just to get an idea of how many numbers we're
But that's
talking
not
about.
$15,000 every year.
No.
Right.
But Tom, that's a good point. I mean, we're talking about the electronic voting that we're gonna start kicking off, and it has the capability to manage surveys like this, so it
That's
might be
actually where
worth a
this
good
question
shot.
is.
Yeah,
I'm coming over to the office tomorrow, I'm gonna talk, visit with Deb for a little bit. We're gonna talk about that, and that's one of the agenda items I've got. I kept that memo that you sent about doing a survey, and those we don't get charged for.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
good
they're
practice
not-
activity too.
They're not, secure. So that's why they don't charge us for it.
Just a way to measure the possible interest, potential interest.
Also, maybe the accuracy of our mailing list too.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that'd be great.
all right. You ladies good? Got a plan?
So, I think we do.
I don't have a plan for nothing.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Next item, covenant change, Mr. Jim Johnson.
Well, I want to pass one thing around, everybody. I'm sorry I was running so close. I want the extras also. I think we're, other than a couple of legal, tiny questions that I've got, I think we're ready to go.
Do what?
From a staffing standpoint, we're gonna need to be able to get all the printing done, because we have to start with a printed version, get all those stuffed, get all that stuff positioned. And that's gonna take quite a bit of time to get that done. Then when we put that in the mail, we can begin basically our marketing thrust. If you look here at the petition, you've seen this before, but there have been some nominal changes. Down at the bottom, those are the different options that our property owners are gonna have in terms of turning back in their ballots. They can mail them back, and we'll have the envelope included with it. They can drop them off in a petition box here at the POA office if they want. We have a private fax number now that they can fax them to if they want to do that. And it goes into a private fax inbox that is supervised only by election committee persons. Email, check out that email address. Is that good or what?
Good work.
I didn't do it,
Oh.
Jim did. Muhlenbein found it when he went out there and he opened that up.
Should've went with Google though,
Huh?
Gmail. Should've went with Gmail.
Hey, he was running that part of the project, so we've got that email address. Only Jim will have access to that, so election committee personnel are involved in that. And then they're also able to photocopy a completed ballot using their iPhone or their Android or whatever they have and send a picture. And that phone number is a private number that only Jim will be able to see. So we're ready as far as this is concerned. I've got one added here in the middle where it talks about the return date. I want to say that the petitions need to be returned by September 30th, 2020, in order to be valid. Because the way we have it right now, it kind of says, you got a year to wait before you vote on this thing. So we want to try to encourage people to get those things in as quickly as possible.
Yeah, if we remember from our last effort, we had 3 different mailers that went out, and I don't recall if each one had a due date to return it. In an effort to get people to return them more quickly, instead of saying, yeah, it's due in a year and a half, put it on your counter and try to find it in 14 months.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's the danger that we run, and then we gotta keep mailing it back out, so. I don't know that if each effort is gonna say, return this by 6 months or 2 weeks, and see if that speeds it up.
As soon as you put a date on
I
there,
know, yeah,
then it closes the ballot.
yeah,
That's what our council told us before.
right.
So 2020, September 30th, has got to be the day, and it's the only one. But we have some other things that we're going to do that we didn't do last time. Is this a venue for that, or are we going to do that at a later point?
Yep, go ahead.
Probably the most significant thing, we have a.
Before you go further, Jim, just for the benefit of those listening in the audience and on YouTube, everybody remembers last year's covenant initiative where we are trying to modify the covenants, 3 areas, combining the 6 neighborhoods into a single community for purposes of voting. Changing the voting process to define an election as an initiative passing if 2/3 of the votes received pass the initiative instead of 2/3 of all lot owners as it is now, because we struggle to get 50% return rate right now. So that's a significant blocker to anything we ever put out on ballot, because we can never get enough ballots back. And the third one is to make the date that the initiative is effective after an approved vote to be immediate instead of a 3-year wait like it is defined in the covenants now. So those are the three things associated with this effort, and these were things that were highlighted from our 2014 strategic plan from the O'Neill and Associates, I think, were those that did that evaluation for us. So these are things that the board feels very important to allow us to govern ourselves more effectively. Additionally, that strategic plan clearly stated that the way the covenants were written, at the time they were written in the 70s, were written in a way to manage neighborhoods and not a community. And it was giving unfair weight to those who didn't vote and live in the community full-time to vote on issues that most affected those who live here all the time. So that's the background of it. That's why we're pursuing it again. I know some people are gonna be like, you guys keep doing this every other year, but it's because it's so important. That's why we're gonna regroup and give it another shot under Jim's leadership. So go ahead, Jim.
Among the strategies, first of all, coordination and timing is very, very important. And we think that the stuff that I'm gonna be mentioning to you in just a minute, it all depends on when we're able to send the mailers out to our public. And that doesn't mean we should rush that any more than we should. We need to get it exactly right. But among the strategies, we would have I'm gonna call it the opening kickoff, and there are a lot of different parts to it. First of all, our beloved president is going to do a YouTube video. And the YouTube video
I didn't know you signed up for that, didn't you?
is,
I didn't either.
it's basically going to recite, and it's going to be close, it's not going to be like in this setting. It's going to be a recitation of the frequently asked questions to help people understand. First, we're going to set the stage of what the three issues are, frequently asked questions about the process, and we're still looking at trying to figure out how much freedom we have in using YouTube, and whether or not we need to have an editor or something like that. If we could put graphic stuff in there, I don't know. That's yet to be determined. First, we would distribute the paper, kick off with the YouTube, have a meeting forum here, and at every board meeting and every ops meeting between now and September 30th would have time for our public input and questions about the covenant. And there may be none. There may be none. But we're going to have that forum. So it'll be almost 18 times that's going to happen. Then, as far as
36 times, really.
Yeah.
Twice a month for a year and a half.
As far as the community is concerned, we have a large bit of information about what happened last effort, in terms of who did not vote. We know who voted too, but we don't know how anybody voted. But the ones that didn't vote, we are going to put forward a dripping program to try our best to communicate with them more than anything else. And the characteristics of that group are pretty broad. Many of them are here on the lake. And they just, for whatever reason, haven't responded. But many of them have never been to the lake. Their parents bought the lots. They pay their dues. And some of them don't even do that. And they live in different states. But those people need to be voting too, or at least have an opportunity. So as far as here locally, we have it thrust intentionally to canvass almost the same way we do a census, where we will go door to door in the different communities at that target group of people who, for whatever reason, hasn't voted. We're going to enlist people in the neighborhoods to maybe have them have gatherings at their homes, where we'll address a group of 6 or 8 or 10 people. And each place that we go, we'll have ballots with us. Try to encourage people, let's take some action, let's do something. Then as far as the people who are remote, out of state, whatever, maybe even here, phone calls, contacting people, one at a time. This is a steep climb, but it's what we gotta do. And in the process, while we're doing it, we can update email addresses, we can do all kinds of stuff while we're at it to improve our ability to communicate with the public later. So then each person that's gonna be involved in this, and we're expecting that board members are gonna participate at some level. Everybody's gonna have, I'm gonna call them talking points for lack of another way of describing it. And it's rationale for why it is that we're trying to do what we're trying to do. And the impediments that are in front of us because of our existing structure and the opportunities that we have as a community once we repair that problem. We have contradictions in our bylaws, not bylaws, excuse me, our covenants with state law, county ordinances, and we just deal with it because we can't change it. I think, don't we in A&E, who's A&E? Don't we even send a warning to people in A&E when they want to do something that is different than our offset?
No, because we don't have any authority. There's nothing that we can do. There's people around here that build stuff with no permit whatsoever. And, really, we can't make them stop.
Well, that's a different question, Dan.
But they don't.
I'm talking about the cases that we approve that meet Putnam County rules that are different than ours.
The offset, isn't that 25 feet and 30 feet, or 25 feet and 20 feet? Isn't there some kind of discrepancy?
Well, the plats, and this is something that we've discussed with the lawyer many times, the plat that's the gospel. There's a plat book for each of the 6 subdivisions. On the front of that, it outlines what all the setbacks are, what the rules are for that subdivision. Now, it also has information in our covenants that's different than what the plat says, but from the research I've done, they did that so that if somebody went to the county, which the county is the only one that can grant a variance to a plat. They have total control over the plats. So if somebody went to the county and said, well, the front setback is 30 foot, I want my setback to be 20. Because of our covenants, they can't do it. The most that the county could grant as far as a variance is 5 feet. They could go to the 25 foot, but no nearer.
So I think that goes to Jim's point as far as the discrepancies between what our covenants state and what
And
covenants says.
And that's really all that I'm saying about that. If we can find a way to be able to deal with, the discrepancies that we have. And Mr. Tanner gave us a whole series of statutes in Indiana that our covenants don't match up to. But we can't change them. So we need to. And that's just another one. And then there's another one, and it's a pet of mine, that has to do with the issue of potential environmental catastrophe. If we have an environmental catastrophe at Heritage Lake that is of a dimension that we cannot financially pay for it, there's only one option that we have, and that's to go to credit. And if we can't react quickly to a situation like that, and a situation, meaning, can we get approval of a change in the way we're operating financially that would make a banker feel comfortable lending us money? We may not be able to act fast enough to deal with an emergency. And I'm talking about something that is really terrible an environmental disaster. Because we can go through millions of dollars doing that fast. So I think that being agile and dealing in these kind of situations is critical to us. And you'll see in the frequently asked questions, we bring up the point that the Princess telephone with a rotor dial was in vogue when our covenants were put in. And now who doesn't have internet access? Well, it's probably a bad thing to ask it here. But it's gonna be a lot of work for us to do this covenant thing. It's gonna be a hard uphill push. But the legacy of us being able to do that right now, it's almost mind-boggling what we can do for our community. And to have people with maybe 1,000 people who are directly affected by everything that we're doing, making the decisions about what we're doing, instead of people in Los Angeles, Texas, who by not voting stop us because we can't get to our majority. So I hope you're all going to be on board.
We didn't tell Jeff and William any of this before they came onto the board, so.
I heard all of it last year. I lived it last year too.
So, yeah, I mean, to Jim's point, this is gonna be a huge effort that this entire board is gonna have to be very active in, along with other leaders in this community, the committee chairs, we need their help, all the people that have been complaining for a long time, and we're all energized about it last year, even though it didn't go through. I think we've gained a lot of allies over the course of the past year or two in our previous efforts, and I think there are people out there that want to help because they recognize the importance of it as well. So we're going to be reaching out. We're going to be a lot more visible this year than I think we've been able to be in the last couple of attempts. So that's where we are.
And the committee chair is going to be really important because, and some committees are heavily attended, comparatively anyway. There's no reason why we can't have every committee chair encouraging to vote when the public comes there. We've got to get everybody involved in it. Not how you vote, vote. Just vote. And if we can do that, I think we can make a big change here. So
we got busy season right around the corner now. Once that marina opens up, this place is going to be hopping again, and that's when we really have to be ready to go and out there and try and strike while we've got everybody kind of centrally located for a few months. So.
Oh, and that's one more thing. Every venue that we have, Feast and Ski, the boats coming in, when all that happens. Any of our charitable organizations that we give access to the marina, for their fundraisers and stuff like that. We're going to be doing everything we can to have presence there to try to encourage. Lois is going to have ballots there at the marina. We're going to have ballots here at the POA office. We're going to have ballots here at every board meeting that we have so we got to just live it and breathe it until we get finished. Done.
Thank you, Jim.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
On the frequently asked questions, did our attorney look those over?
Sure.
One thing that I would suggest, and it's just a suggestion, the attorney did look them over and he agreed with them. One thing I would suggest is that under why memberships in good standing be required for voting, I would use the description of good standing that's included in your handout here.
We actually took your concern to him, and he's comfortable with that.
Because it is a different description.
I'm just telling you what he said.
Okay.
Now, we can run it through another lawyer.
No,
Yeah.
I wouldn't think that. I would also think he would have no objection if we just cut and paste the description only in place of the description that's used here. That's just my opinion, basically knowing many issues we had when there was a discrepancy the last time. There was a discrepancy last time regarding the ballot and the actual covenant wording. So I would...
Just as reference, so you know, that document you have in your hand is neither of those two things.
Say again?
That's a frequently asked question. That's not a ballot. and that's not the covenant language.
But that still is not material. We have a difference,
I think we have an attorney who has a difference of opinion with you.
okay.
Tommy, if we want to go ahead and lift that language, no, we can do it, but we have to run it by the attorney again,
No,
which we will do.
That's fine, as long as he's agreed with this, that's fine. I just would want to try to prevent any unnecessary issues, but
I did
fine.
take it to them.
As long as he agrees with the discrepancy here. The only other thing I was wondering, in the time frame, do we not have to change the bylaws in order to allow electronic voting?
Exactly.
So somewhere in the timeline, that's a necessity.
We will be talking about that in a few minutes.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's something we're gonna have to do, because the board has to, basically, you two?
Yes,
Okay, they have to sign it, and then we upload it to, well, council uploads it to the county.
Yeah, I just didn't see this in your strategy/schedule.
yeah, that strategy was assuming that this part would be done, but yeah, the bylaws have been amended, and it's just a matter of us signing it and getting it filed. Yeah, we'll talk about that in executive as well.
Let me see if I had notes on that thing, just to let you read it, wait a minute. Here it is. The bylaw filing is a precondition for the initiation of the covenant change action.
No, I know we had discussed that, I just,
Yeah.
again, I did not see it in your strategy/schedule.
It's the board's, not mine. We're gonna do that.
Yep. Any other discussion on this?
I'll be calling all of you.
You're gonna have work to do, guys, for sure. Okay, that's the end of the agenda. Anybody else have any other business they wanna bring up now?
Does the DNR have some kind of regulations that pertain to the water?
Do they only come out here when we ask them?
Yeah, well, because it's a private lake, they
I
don't
know
actively.
It's private, but isn't there a Indiana statute on it, what can be and can't be done, even if
Are
it's
you
private?
talking about enforcement of a law, or are you talking about water?
I'm talking about the water, when people are on the water acting stupid.
Well, that would be enforcement actions. Let
I
me
know
tell you,
you guys have guys out there, but
I recently had a conversation with that, while there was a lot of big shots with conservation here. This is what was told to me, right or wrong, this is what was told to me, that if they wanted to, since this water is filled from streams outside,
right.
the water technically is not private water. They could come out here if they wanted, but they are not. They got more fish to fry in other lakes.
On bigger lakes.
Yeah, so, I know that, one individual's got it, one CO has got a boat that he takes, back and forth from Cataract to Raccoon. So, they have no interest in coming out here and regulating the laws on the water, but they can.
But if that's posted, do you think people would be more respectful?
I don't know that they're respectful when the patrols are out actively now.
Well, the patrols are, they don't take them serious, you know that, unless it's kids.
That's the only authority and jurisdiction we have working for us out here.
What about the cameras? Could there be cameras around the lake? That, like on the road, stoplights?
Could there? Yes. Is it practical and manageable? I don't think right now, but I guess we
Sometimes
could, it's something I guess we could look into at some point, but I don't think we're in a position now that we're probably able to support that.
I just know down where we live, where starts getting narrow, it's sometimes a little scary to sit there and watch.
Yeah.
Well, this is my opinion, just from being out there for many years.
Right.
I just flat think that our lake is too small for the amount of boats we have.
I agree with you
And
there.
the size of the motors we have on some of them.
It's just,
I agree with you.
well, I think you could even reduce the size of the motors. That may stop a collision from doing 60 mile an hour, but you could still do a collision at 30 mile an hour because we just have a lot of boats on the water. You know, my personal opinion, when at one time when they had talked about, you know, expanding the lake, the only part of that I really enjoyed entertaining was that it would be nice to be able to
Push them out.
push them, well, make that part of it,
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
idle only. And the people that want to tool around and just enjoy them, relax, they can go on that side.
Right.
The one, which is gonna take those people, if you're running fast and skiing, they may be the people that are, or the ones just tooling around, maybe in the way, which is what causes accidents. So I just think at the end of the day, you can have all the law enforcement out there that you want.
Oh, I think so too.
It's just, I think our lake is just too small for 800 boats. And you could, you know, on any given nice weekend, holiday weekend, you know, we don't even have half the boats on the water.
Oh,
But
no.
can you imagine what would happen if we had,
Twice,
yeah, it would be impossible.
We don't even go out.
We might as well park an ambulance in the marina,
Right.
because that's
Yeah.
what it would
Yeah,
take.
I think that's been stated several times, that the lake has really been oversold. If everybody showed up at one time, to be boat to boat, you would walk across them.
Can you imagine just at the 4th of July, all
Oh,
the boats
goodness.
you see out there?
I know.
If just those boats alone was all of a sudden doing 30 mile an hour on here, man, it'd just be a,
That's been my funnest 4th of July's, parking them or sitting our boat while it's in the dock in the marina and listening to everybody bumping each other, and they've been drinking all day, and they're all trying to go out after dark. That's fun.
not here.
All right,
I
guys.
just thought a camera, I mean, even if they have one or two, you know, we're talking about having it at the burn center, have it for safety reasons. Just while we're shopping.
Yeah. All right, that's the end of our agenda. That's the end of the ops meeting. I will take a motion.
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you for coming, everybody. Executive session, guys.
Good seeing you. Your wife,